Hello. So one of the things that we're looking at this week is body rotation. And so for to start off, just by giving an idea of what that looks like. So
Silver standard, final, waltz.
starting off, nice solid silver couple that you guys know, hopefully. Nice dancers. Not a lot of rotation. Pretty nice rotation in this promenade position. But notice that when they're going after the first half of the natural turn, going in the second half, they're not completely square with the direction they're going, but they are a bit diagonal, but they're not that rotated.
Yeah, Jonas and Chen Yu!
And notice there's not much twist and not much rotation in their bodies. And again, whenever they do their half natural turn here, again, they're a little bit under turn, which is good. They're not completely square. They're not going straight backwards. They're going back a little bit at an angle. So notice here, this one is a bit closer to what most bronze dancers do. Notice he's almost going straight backwards. His left side is a little bit further back than his right side. That's good. But it is mostly square. So that's for those who are dancing bronze. Notice that little bit of rotation so that you're not going straight back. That's a good starting step. Now let's take a look at what we want to work towards a little bit more. So again, other people that you might know. Just to sort of show you that this is something that everyone needs to work on. So unfortunately, that couple's in the way. You can't really see them. But there were a couple things that I wanted to sort of point out. So one of the things here, notice that nice little line they have here. Now notice, his body is very square. His body's, it's rotated relative to the line of dance, but in terms of his upper body and his hips, there's not much contra action there. And notice his left foot is released, so he doesn't have much of a twist in his body. It's fairly comfortable, which is not entirely what we want. But let's keep watching. Actually, I think next part I had was about here. So here, going into this fall away position. Fall away position is pretty hard, but it should look just like promenade, which in many ways it does. But the other thing is to notice that how much wider they are at their shoulders and how much closer together they are with their other shoulders. So what they both need to do, this is where body rotation comes into play. He needs to rotate his left shoulder much closer to hers, and she needs to rotate her right shoulder closer to him as well. So another step up, notice that they do have a fair bit of rotation, that they've got that nice little line there. But again, it's something that there are layers to this. So moving up to some other schmuck that needs to work on improving his dancing. Let's take a look at this.
Three-champ standard, waltz.
So this is a very similar position to what Gunnar and Reina had. Notice that the amount of rotation here, Anna needs to rotate her right side towards a little bit more. But here's the other thing that's very different about what's here versus what you guys saw before. Notice that this back leg is still there. Neither person has closed their feet. And so in addition to the right side here being forward, it is the left foot here, and that's got that little contra twisted action in the body. And that's what's going to give a little bit more wind up and a little more energy for that little turn afterwards. So that is one of the things, the reasons why we have that rotation, is it gives us wind up for energy for our turns. So that's a nice illustration of a little progression of how, okay, they had their bodies rotated, but they didn't leave their feet where they were, and that loses a bit of that twist. So continuing on, so just look for other examples here. So back to here. There's a lot of promenade position here. So here compared to earlier, the sides compare to the shoulder, this shoulder compared to this shoulder. Notice there's still a difference, but there's less of a difference. There's a little bit more rotation and twist in the body towards a partner because you want to try to keep your upper body parallel to your partner as much as possible, which is especially noticeable in promenade position because you don't want your hips and feet to be parallel. Otherwise, you'd be walking towards each other. But you need to keep your tops parallel, and this is where that twist in the body comes into play. So here, a little bit losing it a little bit, but again, the idea is that we want to get this top line parallel without having the lower body parallel. All right, now moving on to people who you really should actually try to copy. I actually don't know who these people are, but they're freaking good. All right, this doesn't stop till like 30 seconds in. So, notice already, compared to how the very first video I showed you guys was Jonas and Chen Yu, notice how different their top line is. They are moving that way down the line of dance. Notice how much, okay, yes, it's arched this way, but also how rotated, in terms of left and right rotation, their top line is compared to Jonas and Chen Yu after just a half natural turn. That is a huge difference there. And again, partially it's because they're doing stuff like that. It gives them the energy and the ability to do stuff like that, that big twist. The other thing I want to point out, so here, okay, don't worry about that. That is very difficult. But here, notice that how much rotation is. Notice where his right foot is forward, his left side is forward. So that means he's got opposite sides forward, and there's this big twist in the body here. It is not, so the main thing, one of the things to note is that in dancing, especially in standard, you do not ever go straight forward or straight back. It is always left side leading or right side leading. And often it'll be the opposite foot and the opposite hand. So notice this whisk position. And again, notice that even their top lines are not perfectly parallel. That's not, you don't expect to be perfectly parallel, but that is what you want to keep stretching for. And notice how close their shoulders are compared to the other one. There is much less of a difference here than you saw earlier. And again, a lot more, notice that flexibility in the body. And again, we talked about that little bit of a twist position that Gunnar and Reina had, where, again, there's some upper body rotation, but the feet aren't going with it. We saw the other video there where there's a little bit more wind up, and because you keep the foot there, that allows you to wind up for the next one there. So notice how much more rotation there is in this. Notice how far forward his left side is. Notice that it's almost going straight back the way he wants, but also notice down here, his left leg is still there. He's completely sort of twisted his body so his left leg is going forward, his right side is going forward. That's the sort of rotation that the body flexibility that we want to have. And I just want to leave with this thought though. It is not all just a twist in the body. Part of it is knowing what part of your body should rotate, whether it should be just the upper body and the lower body stays still, whether it should be a gradual twist throughout the whole thing. And some of that's going to be depend on the figure that you're doing. Because the thing I want you to notice is his hips here are more aligned with his top, because notice that they need to be parallel to his partner. There are going to be times where your hips will be aligned with your top. It's going to be different. There's going to be a gradual twist. Sometimes they'll be the same. So there is a bit of learning. It's not just, oh, just twist as much as you can. Part of it is knowing where and when to twist. But the first step is just to make sure that you're able to have that twist.